All right, which is the best for a good breaking pitch? One with a backspin or a forward spin? And I'm going to answer that question in today's video, so hang on. To the comment from KTW, I'll just read his comment. Opposed to what you say, I don't think spin rate correlates to ball movement. I get way more movement with palm up, particularly when throwing a curveball. Screwballs work better. With a backspin release, I use 3 fingers and twist the ball on release with control. In one respect, I do agree with KTW here when it comes to spin rate. When I teach the what he calls a curveball, what I call a slider, you throw that pitch with the rotation axis at a slight angle to the flight of the ball, or I should say maybe the rotational direction. But anyway, that axis is not perpendicular to the flight of the ball. It's at a slight angle. And this, if you're familiar with they call it the Magnus effect. This is what causes a curveball to move, a slider, whatever, pitch, is that unequal pressure, air pressure on the sides of the ball. So when that ball is turning at an angle to the flight path, it creates a low pressure area here and a high pressure area on the other side, and it causes that ball to move to that side wherever it's pointing. Okay, wherever that rotation is pointing, that's where it causes it to move. Now, in that sense, I agree that the rate of rotation or rotation direction really isn't an issue, because as long as that axis is maintained at this angle, that ball is going to break. Okay, whether it's spinning fast or slow, it doesn't make any difference. But I think this is where we're crossing paths, because I believe a backspin breaking pitch is better for a couple of reasons. The Magnus force on this ball is not just from one direction. It's actually coming from a vertical direction as well. Now, if you're familiar with a curveball, when you were in little league, you threw a curveball, it broke. You threw it with a topspin, right? And it broke down. Because again, it's that Magnus effect, but this time it's because of rotation. Creates a high pressure on the top side, low pressure on the bottom, and it breaks toward the rotation. If you ever play ping pong, table tennis, you hit that ball with a backspin, turns back, it wants to float the ball, right? It reduces the rate of sink. Just like a fastball in Major League Baseball, you know, that's a big deal, is spin rate on the fastball, because the higher the spin rate, the slower the ball will sink. It doesn't actually rise, but it doesn't sink as quickly. So now with the back, let's compare the backspin curveball or slider to the forward spin. Now, we already agree that the side axis is going to create some movement to the left. This is the point I want to make here about the forward spin opposed to the back spin. Now, on forward spin, we already talked about the curveball. It's going to drive the ball down. Okay, so that ball is going to go down faster, so it doesn't have the time to move laterally from the lateral force on the side. Whereas if you throw it with a backspin, now that ball the sink rate is reducing, so it stays up a little longer, goes farther, and it will break to the right or to the left or to whatever the break side. If it's a screwball, backspin, it's the same thing. As it's rotating backwards, it reduces the rate of sink, and it may only make a difference of, say, 2 or 3 inches in the break, but that's a big deal. If you're throwing a slider or curveball and it's breaking 8 or 10 inches, and you throw it with a backspin and it breaks 12 to 14 inches, that's a big deal. You know, it adds 2 or 3 inches to it. So the other thing too is, with a forward spin pitch, you can only get so much rotational speed because of the mechanics. It's counter. You know, you're trying to push the ball up at the same time you're trying to spin it forward. The mechanics don't work. But with a backspin pitch, as you release the ball, that wrist angle and turn creates that really high spin rate. So that high spin rate, again, gives you that vertical element of ball movement, or that vertical force, Magnus force, along with the lateral Magnus force, and that, I believe, gives you a better break. So, and again, if you're throwing a pitch, forward spin, backward spin, it doesn't matter. If you're throwing a pitch and you're successful, you're getting guys out, you're winning games with that pitch, I'd be the last guy to try to talk you out of that. But at the same time, if you're learning a new pitch and you're going to invest the hours and hours and reps and practice sessions that you're going to have to really master the control and movement of a pitch, I would recommend going with a pitch that from the standpoint of physics is going to give you the best opportunity to give you the maximum amount of break. Plus there's other advantages to that backspin. It gives you an advantage on the deflection angle, and I'm not going to go into that here. I've talked about that in my power pitching series. But the deflection angle off the bat is more favorable when you throw a pitch with backspin than with forward spin. So you add all these things together, and I think the greater break, the deflection angle, these things are going to give you more of an advantage. So if you're investing the time to learn a new pitch, learn the pitch that has the best opportunity to have the maximum movement and gives you the opportunity to get those batters out more frequently. If you have any questions, please make note of them. And sometimes I make videos to answer questions if I don't think I can make a good point in my comments. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.